Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm not quite sure why my camera isn't working this evening, but I will continue to try to get it to work. My name is Annette Weeks, and I welcome you to the channel. And to start us off this evening, our opening prayer will be delivered by Mrs. Stephanie Gooding.
Good evening. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this day and the blessings you have bestowed on us. We thank you as we gather in this sacred place, the Trinity Chapel, for your guidance and wisdom as we discuss the topic, African linkage towards a progressive Barbados. Grant that your spirit remain with us to guide and inspire us to think and to speak through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. A very warm welcome to our friends and family in the Holy Trinity Chapel. For all of you that are joining us online on this platform, we bid you a warm welcome. This is Conversations that is held monthly in the Trinity Chapel. And our conversation committee comprises Mrs. Lana Fingal, Mr. Michael Brown, and myself, Annette Weeks. Tonight, our theme is African linkage towards a progressive Barbados. In that vein, though, I would like to introduce you to some protocols that we have here online, namely that all mics, except perhaps for those that are speaking, have been muted to avoid any background noise. Conversations are recorded, as is this one will be. I think you also need to be aware that from time to time, we are joined by the media, and this may lead to written articles as they have done in the past, but I'm not saying that to discourage you in any way. We invite you to use the raised hand if you have a question or comment or query, but you may also wish to type your questions or queries or comments into the chat. Now, we invite persons to turn on their cameras, and I would love to do so as soon as I can get it working. But we want to do this so that we can see you and converse with you. We have an incredible set of panelists tonight that are joining us, and I'm going to introduce to you them. But first, I would like to say to you that we've been told that Barbados is changing direction for foreign trade and cooperation from the traditional North American and Europe to the African continent, some Middle Eastern states, and China as well. I quote, "We are going to claim our Atlantic destiny, and this does not in any way compromise our Caribbean-ness." And that was said by Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley to a New York Barbadian diaspora. She further went on to say the time has come for us to make sure that the bridges and the dollars and the science and the conversation and everything doesn't only go north, but it can go east and come from west to us. Jerome Walcott, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, indicate that Barbados believes, recognizing the growth of African countries, that it was time for us to make that transition to go back to the African coast again. We thought that it was very important that we establish relations with Africa, recognizing that Africa has 54 countries and that the average growth rate of African economies is about 6%. He said that our natural inclination to trace our roots and to get back to Africa, not only in terms of historical purposes, but also of stimulating new growth and trade and investment between Africa and Barbados and the wider Caribbean. On that note, we're going to introduce our panel this evening that we are very happy to have you joining us. First and foremost, we have Mr. Edward Amankwa, and if I'm pronouncing that, please, I do apologize. Edward was born in the eastern part of Ghana. He belongs to a tribe called Kwahu, who are nicknamed mountaineers because they live in mountainous areas. The main occupation of his tribe is trade. Edward is currently a critical care nurse and has been practicing nursing for 6 years. However, he has the idea of going into business in the future. Why? Well, remember I said earlier that the main occupation of his tribe is trade. He therefore believes that since he was born into a tribe known for trade, he will be successful doing exactly that, trading, or perhaps some other type of business. Edward, welcome to the Trinity Chapel.
Thank you.
Secondly, we have with us Juliet Bab Riley. And Juliet is the Deputy Permanent Representative of Barbados to the United Nations. Juliet Bab Riley joined the Barbados Foreign Service in 1991 and was assigned to the International Relations Division until December 1995. She had several postings within the ministry since then as counselor and protocol divisions of the said Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She was posted to Barbados High Commission in Ottawa, Canada as First Secretary. And on her return to headquarters, she served as the Public Affairs section, head of the Europe, Asia, and African section, head of the International Law, Human Rights, and Maritime Division Delimitation section, and head of the Human Rights and Multilateral Relations section. She also acted as head of the Hemispheric Relations section. Ms. Bab Riley is the holder of a Bachelor of Arts degree honors in History and Political Science, a Bachelor of Laws degree honors, and a Master of Science degree in International Studies. Juliet, thank you for joining us in the Trinity Chapel this evening.
Thank you.
I would also like to introduce you to Mr. Kevin Farmer, who is currently Deputy Director of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. As Deputy Director, he has responsibility for museum exhibition programming and capital campaign fundraising. Kevin holds a master's degree in history, heritage studies particularly, from the University of the West Indies. He is the co-editor of the publication entitled Pre-Colonial and Post-Colonial Contact Archaeology in Barbados, also Plantation to Nation, also Caribbean Museums and National Identity, along with several other articles. Kevin, welcome to the Trinity Chapel with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good night, everyone.
Good night. And finally, on our panel this evening, we have Phyllis Okomia Pukua. And Phyllis, please correct me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. She is currently employed as a registered nurse at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. She previously worked as a nursing officer at the Anglo Gold Ashanti Hospital in Ghana. Phyllis received her bachelor's degree in public health from the Catholic University College of Ghana. Welcome, Phyllis, to the Trinity Chapel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have each panelist open with about 5 minutes with respect to their opening remarks. And then we will move on to the persons in the chapel and hear what they have to say in terms of discussion. I will start with Edward. Then I will have Juliet give her 5-minute presentation. Kevin, we will come to you. And finally, Phyllis. So we have Edward, Juliet, Kevin, and Phyllis. Good night to everyone. Welcome. And Edward, it is over to you. Welcome to the Trinity Chapel.
Thank you. Good evening once again. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
So I would like us to discuss about cocoa production in Ghana. You know, I've been on the island for a year, and I have seen that the soil of Barbados, you know, I think can be good for cocoa as well, because most of the things we do plant in Africa, most of the food, you know, we can get some here. Normally they plant cocoa alongside with this plantain tree. And even in my area, I've been seeing some plantain trees, you know, around. So, you know, I equally believe that if Barbados should enter into cocoa, I think it will be very beneficial to the country. Let me start with the history of cocoa in Ghana. So it was one man known as Terekwashi, who returned from Fernando Po those days in the 1890s from one of the African countries called Equatorial Guinea. So when he was coming from that side, he took some cocoa beans and just pocketed them and bring them to the soil of Ghana. And when he came to Ghana, he went to the eastern region. That's where his farm was, and he started planting some of these cocoa beans over there. Are you with me? Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So cocoa has been one of the backbones of Ghana economy, and as at 2019 and 2020, Ghana was estimated to have produced about 800,000 tons of cocoa beans, right? And cocoa bean has been so beneficial to Ghana. Ghana has about 16 regions. Almost half of the region they do plant cocoa, and cocoa has been one of the source of income and support to most of the livelihoods of about 4 million farming households. Cocoa has been the backbone of Ghana's economy, and it's about 30% of Ghana's exports outside. Only cocoa. But when we come to the agro business or the agriculture sector, cocoa alone has about 57% of the agriculture exportations. When we go to the importance of cocoa to the Ghana economy, apart from jobs and apart from being the backbone of the country's economy, the money Ghana do accrue from cocoa exportation. Through that, we have a whole hospital in Ghana called Cocoa Hospital, and it's a very big institution over there. It's mainly for cocoa farmers. I think when you are the health sector or the health system in Ghana is quite different from Barbados. In Barbados, you go to the hospital with your card and the government caters for you. But in Ghana, government takes some of the cost. You also take some of the cost, right? But when you belong to that cocoa family, as in the cocoa farmers, their children, their grandchildren, their relatives, and you attend to one of these cocoa hospitals, they treat you for free and you go your way, right? And apart from the hospitals, they also have scholarship for those who plant the cocoa. I mean, the cocoa farmers, their children, their grandchildren, they also have scholarships, for their children when they are schooling. My elderly sister also benefit. Though my father is not a cocoa farmer, my mother is not a cocoa farmer, but I think the money was so much that some of us also benefited from that side. So my sister is a beneficiary of some of these cocoa scholarship. And when we go to the production of Milo, pomade, chocolate, these beverages, you cannot take cocoa out, right? You cannot take cocoa out. So cocoa has been very good to Ghana. It's one of the backbone of the economy. It generated jobs, hospitals and scholarships, right? So that's it. So why do Ghana go in? Ghana saw the rainy, the season, as we have hurricane seasons, rainy, and the others here in Barbados. In Ghana, we have two seasons. We have that of the Harmattan and we have that of the rainy season, right? So during the rainy season, that's where most of these farmers do their planting and those things, and it takes about 5 years for cocoa to kind of mature, 4 to 5 years for cocoa to mature, the tree to mature. And when it matures, you can feed on one tree for about 10 years, right? Because every season, it do comes. So it's just a matter of keeping the farm in shape, weeding around and all those things. Just that, applying fertilizers and stuff just for the cocoa beans to, kind of every year, mature so that you can also, plug and do whatever you're supposed to do. Looking at the soil of Barbados, as I was saying, since most of our plants, we do grow in Africa, I've seen most of them here. So I always have been thinking, I was waiting for such opportunity just for people to know that if Barbados should enter into this, I mean, they will benefit. China has started with it. They went to Ghana, they employed some of these, how do you call it, students who have ventured into this agriculture. You know, they signed an agreement and they took them away. And we have heard that China has started with the production of cocoa. And Ghanaians were worried. Our people were worried because, yeah, they went down there, they took out some of our people down there to China. And China has started with the production of cocoa. So we don't know. In the next 10 years or 5, we don't know where China also, you know, will be on the market and will be competing with Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. You know, in Africa, it's Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, you know, they share borders, right? They share borders. So those soils, you know, is very good for the production of cocoa, right? And cocoa, though cocoa production, it's originated from the Southern America, but I think they didn't pay much attention to that, right? I don't know, but the majority of cocoa beans production, you know, to the world is from Africa, and that's Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, right? So that's it. So I think in a nutshell, that's what I can say for now. Maybe when you are asking questions, maybe I can be able to, you know, kind of talk about it more. So that's the few things I can say for now, right?
All right. Thank you so very much, Edward. We appreciate that. And we can see why you say that you're going to be a businessman and successful. You've done a great job of selling the idea of cocoa. So we look forward to hearing more of other produce and other things that we can certainly speak about later. Juliet, thank you so much. Juliet, your turn to tell us about Ghana, and not just Ghana, sorry, but Barbados reaching into the African and the linkages between Barbados and the African continent.
Thank you very much, Annette, and good evening to everyone. So I thought that I would begin my presentation by giving an overview of Barbados's foreign policy relationship with Africa, and then say something about what I see as some of the opportunities for advancing and strengthening a bilateral and multilateral cooperation with Africa. In terms of the overview of the relationship, is not exhaustive, but just an indicator of the past relationship. So as we all know, the African continent is made up of 54 countries from 5 regions in the north, central, west, east, and south. The continent is not monolithic and homogeneous. In fact, it's a cultural and linguistically diverse continent. In 2003, the African Union declared the African diaspora, comprising the diasporas in the Americas, Europe, the Caribbean, Australia, and Asia, as the 6th region of the continent. Thus far, Barbados has established formal diplomatic relations with Algeria, that was in 1979, Botswana in 2006, Egypt in 2006, Ghana in 1994, Kenya in 2014, Lesotho in 1979, Mali in 2021, which is just very, very recently. Mauritius 1974, Morocco 2013, Namibia 1972, Niger 1979, Nigeria 1970, Rwanda in 2015, Senegal in 1976, South Africa in 1994, Tanzania in 1971, and Zambia also in 1971. And you note I said formal diplomatic relations, and I said so for 2 reasons. In the context of the Commonwealth, traditionally it was considered that by virtue of being members of the Commonwealth, that we were actually maintaining diplomatic relations, that diplomatic relations already existed. And then, of course, within the multilateral context, we engage each other as sovereign states by virtue of our membership of those organizations. And we cooperate on issues of mutual interest. This notwithstanding, Barbados will also be seeking to establish formal diplomatic relations in the near future with Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Equatorial Guinea, Eswatini, Ethiopia, Gabon, Malawi, Mozambique, Seychelles, Sierra Leone, and Uganda. Apart from and along with the above, Barbados engages with African countries as part of multilateral processes in which we are both members, such as the Commonwealth, the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, and of course, the United Nations. And there have also been a number of high-profile bilateral visits at the level of head of state or head of government over the last 21 years. Most recently being Nigeria in 2002, Botswana in 2006, and very, very recently, Ghana and Kenya in 2019. Moving forward, we will be seeking to strengthen linkages with regional bodies such as the African Union, and ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, to name a few. So that is the past coming into the present. As you mentioned, Annette, at the outset of our discussions, both the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister have signaled that it is important that we strengthen and concretize and advance this historical relationship that exists between Africa and the Caribbean. And against this background, Barbados has decided to establish two resident diplomatic missions in Africa, namely in Kenya and Ghana, which will be headed respectively by Alex MacDonald as High Commissioner in Kenya and me as our Charge d'Affaires in Ghana. The High Commission in Ghana will also have a cultural and commercial attaché. Moreover, the missions in Kenya and Ghana will have non-resident accreditation to neighboring countries in West, East, and Southern Africa. And in addition, we are looking at establishing a resident office in Morocco in due course. This decision to establish resident missions on the African continent will allow us to progress our relationship with the continent in much the same way that the resident diplomatic presence of the missions of Argentina and Japan, for example, have done. The resident missions, having a resident mission facilitates the building and strengthening of relationships as it provides an opportunity to increase people-to-people contacts and raise the awareness and profile of the country in which the mission is resident and accredited. And just to stress on the importance of the in-person relationship, I note, for example, that during the pandemic, much of the work of the United Nations had to move to a virtual format. But while that helped in the sense that the United Nations was able to continue its operations and its work, much of what we were able to achieve during that lockdown period rested on the shoulders of the prior in-person physical relationships that had previously been fostered. Thus, many of my colleagues who came to New York in 2020 did not have this foundation to rely on. We therefore found that as soon as New York reopened, countries pushed for in-person encounters to recommence where possible. And in September 2020, the General Assembly decided to have in-person meetings, one delegate for each country. By May 21, as vaccines were increasingly made available, it was increased to 1+1. And for September this year, the numbers should increase to 1+3 for high-level week. So when all is said and done, we are social beings. And while virtual platforms will remain a part of our work moving forward, as it allows for broader participation, it is not an adequate substitute for in-person physical interaction. And that is what the decision to establish a resident missions on the African continent will help achieve. So in terms of the areas identified for greater cooperation, because I indicated at the outset that there's a relationship that has existed, but a new relationship, a strengthening, a deepening of that relationship is will now take place and made possible by the establishment of these missions. And the areas that we've identified for greater focus includes trading services and goods such as tourism, financial services, ICTs, energy, and the culture industries. Establishing direct air links, looking at educational exchanges, research and development in terms of medical and pharmaceutical research, etc. And then we're also looking to reactivate existing bilateral agreements that we have. And one example of this is a cultural, technical, and scientific agreement that was signed with Ghana in 2015. And we've recently concluded air services agreement with Ghana, which we hope to sign very, very soon. So apart from this push to have a resident officers, resident missions on the African continent, elsewhere, for example, here in New York at the United Nations, there's an initiative that has started to gain traction, which is called the AFCAR initiative. And that initiative seeks to bring together the countries that make up the African group here in New York at the UN, plus CARICOM. And for us to support each other, issue joint statements, etc. And this initiative is in line with the call of our various leaders to strengthen the cooperation, the relationship between Africa and CARICOM. And finally, in terms of other benefits, which I think go to the heart of the relationship, is better understanding and appreciation of each other, more collaboration at the people-to-people level, cultural visits and exchanges, etc. The creation of a Barbadian and Friends of Barbados registry. I was in Ghana in June, and I had the opportunity to meet a few Barbadians, and I'm sure that I will meet many more as the mission is up and running. There's also been the recent formation of a Ghana, Barbados, Ghana Chamber of Commerce. For example, we have a number of Ghanaian nurses that are in Barbados, and their presence in Barbados allows for that at the people-to-people level, greater interaction, greater understanding, greater appreciation of the similarities between Ghana and Barbados. And so just in closing, to say that I really look forward to this opportunity to forge the ties that have existed, and that to increase the contact and the relationship between the people in the African continent and the people of Barbados. And of course, the commercial ties and the trade ties, the cultural ties, etc. But at the end of the day, the people-to-people contact and awareness is one of the greatest benefits that we can get moving forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Juliet. Kevin, Juliet was speaking about the present and the future, but persons are always talking about going back to the motherland. So if you can give us a little bit of perhaps historical context. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. In fact, I was going to riff a bit on what Juliet had talked about in terms of culture, because that is really that connection, and it really allows us to have that wider discussion about history and engagement. When Barbadians talk about going back to the motherland, I think they need to recognize that going back to the motherland is a large space. It stretches from as far north as Senegambia all the way to south to Angola and in between. But what we don't know is how far inland that goes. Because our point of departure is about bonded labor. And we know some of where persons might have come from, and that's only at the ports where persons got onto the ships and came across. But there is need to rediscover and begin to trace those spaces inland. But what does that mean? That means that you've got a diasporic community in the Caribbean, in Barbados. And I think we're now entering the ending decade of the recognition of persons of African descent in the diaspora. That allows us to try to make those reconnections and to realize that we're not, in a way, trying something new, but re-engaging with past and present. And the best example of that is a couple of weeks ago at the museum, we had a visit literally of two descendants of those persons who would have left Barbados to go to Sierra Leone and Liberia in the 1890s. And so when we speak of back to Africa, recognize it has been ongoing for more than a century and a half. And there are those reconnections to begin to explore and the cultural ties to gain understanding. And for that, I dare say that music and food becomes the manner by which you can engage. I'm sure that the Ghanaians who are here could talk about some of the similarities of food. And those Barbadians who've had the privilege to go to the continent can begin to talk about things that look similar. And I think that is an interesting point of engagement. So going back to Edward, I totally agree about cocoa. But cocoa as the metaphor that we're binded and can be bound by the food with which we cook and the food which we grow. And it's amazing how empires are grown just on food. And I'll not mention rum. Or cane spirit, or cane juice as it's called in certain parts of Western Africa. But for those reconnections and deeper understanding, and also here in Barbados, to fully immerse ourselves and we look how we teach African history at our primary and secondary schools. I remember the ministry maybe 15, almost 20 years ago, began to look at teaching African history in school. And in fact, when you mentioned the treaty with Botswana, the Barbados Museum was actually a space in which the then president of Botswana and the late Oinafa signed a bilateral trade arrangement together in a newly created African gallery to tell that history. So history is past and present and future. And we've got to find ways in which to bridge those gaps, in which to create the engagement and understanding that, yes, ultimately leads to an economic benefit for both. But I think that people and culture, in a way, comes first. And that is really the bridge and the road by which you then engage for any type of economic activity. Not to mention, of course, that we will have to begin looking at the teaching of African languages within our primary and secondary school, because Juliet underscored it and even understated it when she noted the linguistic the multitude of linguistic languages on the African continent. And unfortunately, we in Barbados are still stuck speaking one language, or sometimes two, where in fact we need to be speaking three or four. And it's hope that maybe that's a way in which we can also engage. And to note, of course, that one of our literary giants, Edward Kamal Brafitt, worked and studied in Ghana for some time. So it's about re-engaging with that past to recognizing that there have been bridges built. It's about reopening and re-engaging and learning. And I think that's the most important thing. So wearing the hat of the museum, I look forward to those cultural engagements and cultural ties and forging those type of bonds and unions within Western Africa and also East Africa as well. And I would shamelessly plug and say to the Ghanaian nurses here, I look forward to seeing you at the Barbados Museum. I think that anyone who lands anywhere, no matter where you go, the first two places you go to are museums, and then find out what the favorite place to go and eat food is. And you can learn a lot about the country that way. So I'll stop talking now. I look forward to the conversation that we're going to have tonight and the continuation of that conversation after tonight's meeting as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Perhaps that's a very good segue into Phyllis' opening remarks. That might have been her. I heard chuckling in the background. So we welcome you and we look forward to hearing what your opening remarks are and your experience perhaps in not only coming to Barbados, but your route here to getting to Barbados. Welcome, Phyllis.
Thank you. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, good night once again. I think from Juliet to Kevin to Edwin, they've said much. So I will add up that Barbados established diplomatic relation with Ghana. That was in 1994. So it was recently, the friendship became so tight that with the government to government cooperation, we Ghanaian nurses, like nurses from Ghana, has to come and then help. For the benefits, there are a lot of benefits between Barbados and Ghana, in the sense that we have we have sugar factories and we have sugar experts in Barbados who can equally go to Ghana and help. And then to the establishment of Commission for Pan-African relations, expanding the culture of Africa, and then allowing teachers to also create the awareness in schools to the children. That will bring us together as they are growing. They will know much about Africa and Ghana. And then I'll chip in with tourism. We have a lot of tourist attraction, tourist sites, a lot in Ghana, from the Boti waterfalls to this monkey, a community for monkeys. And then we have a lot, the castle where the slavery people were taken out of the country to other countries like the England, and then some parts of Caribbean. So all those areas are for tourist attractions. But I think Ghana needs to learn more from Barbados, because we have a lot, but Barbados got people coming in as tourists. But we don't get a lot of people going into Ghana. So I think we need to learn from you how you keep your beaches clean, and then how you attract tourism. Because the population for Ghana is 30.42 million people as of 2019. And then with that, when it comes to culture, I know agriculture. Agriculture, as Edward said, cocoa. I have never seen palm nut tree in Barbados. Ghana is benefiting a lot on palm nut tree because it got the fruits. We get palm nut oil. We get palm nuts wine that you may, yeah. And then they also, out of the palm nuts wine, we get the rum. We also get a rum. So I think with that, when it's also palm nut fruit is introduced into Barbados, it can also attract money in terms of its benefits. And then with the, I think the other time, that was yesterday, you asked something like, how did we get to Barbados as nurses? It was also published in Ghana. Those nurses who are interested are like, we were allowed to apply. So with the application for some time, we were called, by going through the CVs and everything, we were called to go through interview. Ghanaian, Ministry of Health held an interview, and then Barbados panel also, after you've passed through the Ministry of Health, like Ghana Ministry of Health, then you can go to the Barbados interview. So it was not, I would say, Ghana didn't have much hand in selection of the nurses. By the qualification and then by the interview, we were selected to work in Barbados. And it has really helped us because for me, I had, with all the news and everything, it was the first time I heard of the name Barbados. And then I was so eager to come and then see the place. So I came, and I think the people, when you see people in town, you can really say these people look like we all look alike. We look like each other, Barbados, Ghanaian, without, if you don't speak, it's only the accent that will tell. Other than that, we look exactly the same. So I think moving forward, the relations between Ghana and then Barbados, from the look of things, from the opening of the commission, and then I don't know, is it I don't know, like Mr. Phil, I don't know, the Mr. Phil going to Ghana, I think the relationship will be a bit better, and it will help both countries in terms of agriculture, tourism, food, creation of awareness to children and other things. We can build a good, we can become good family. That is how I have to put it. And then that is all that I will say about our discussion. And then we are here waiting for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Phyllis. Just to follow up on what you're saying with respect to tourism and the beautiful sites and cultures and so on that we can be exposed to in Ghana, I must confess up front that my ultimate dream is to see the door of no return. So, but tourism between Africa and the Caribbean, you can say basically remains undeveloped due to the lack of the direct air links. So getting to Africa from the Caribbean or vice versa requires going through one of the major international gateways, be it London or New York City. And you would have had to travel through one of those to get here to Barbados. How was the experience?
To be very honest, with coming straight was good, it was perfect. But because of I would say some people even applied for transit visa and they were refused because some wanted to visit home during their vacation. So I would say going forward, I think it will be very important to have our own flight from Barbados to Ghana and Ghana to Barbados, because at home, Ghana, they also want to visit Barbados, to be very honest. Some people will call you and ask, how can I come for vacation? Because they're traveling to Miami and then other areas. And I think moving forward, we need it. We need a straight flight. We need a straight flight.
All right, so I was being told that you had a charter flight direct here from
Yes,
Ghana, but the
yes,
average tourist, average tourist will not have that. They'll have to go through one of the major international gateways. So thank you, Danielle, for that information, for sharing that information with us. I can see actually, Edward has his hand up. Hi, Edward, you have some comments for us based on what I said or what you can add to that?
Yeah, I have a whole lot of comments to make, but I limited my presentation based on cocoa because I was just looking at in a perspective where Barbados can benefit and benefit well. But if you say we are just combining tourism, culture, and everything together, then we will have a lot, to say, right? From my sister was talking about sugar. We have a whole sugar factory in Ghana, and the factory has been shut down, all because they say they aren't getting any sugar cane. They built a factory without the previous government built a factory without thinking about how they will get a sugar cane to process the sugar. They did it. They commissioned. They did a whole lot, and just within a month, the factory was shut down. So right now, that factory is sitting in the bush, harboring frogs and snakes. There, right? So if you say we should take everything in general, then I have a whole lot of things to. Let me go to tourism. Right now Ghana has I saw the news. I saw the news just yesterday that Dubai. Right now, when you are moving from Ghana to Dubai, right now there is no visa. You just take your bag and you move, and there is no obstacle. We have the Emirates. Emirates flies from Dubai to Ghana almost every day, right? And they've realized that they are getting much tourism from Ghana. And Ghanaians, I don't know, Ghanaians behave exactly as Barbadians. We though sometimes we talk back, but we aren't aggressive, right? We make complaint about certain things, but as to fighting, no, we don't do those things. So comparing Ghanaians to some other people, they saw that we are very kind of calm, because right now when you go to Dubai right now, they ban Nigerians from coming to how do you call it, from Dubai, because they say there was a crime activity there, and there was a whole lot of stuff. But they saw that some of the countries within Ghana, Kenya, and some of them, right now you travel to Dubai without any visa. So since they want to boost their tourism ministry, and they've realized that we are having a whole lot of people from Ghana. Ghana, the rich people, if you say you have money, go and spend your destiny in Dubai, travel. That's why you know that you have money, right? So if you happen to get that direct flight from let me say Ghana to Barbados, it will be very easy, because when you apply sometimes through UK, sometimes UK will bounce you. UK wouldn't give you the visa. US wouldn't give you, so you can move. So you don't have any option than to go to Dubai, right? So if you say we are talking about tourism, we have a whole lot. There was a whole lot of tourist sites, in Ghana. We have one fetish priest who could charm, how do you call it? A golden stool. And where Phyllis comes from, that's where they have that golden stool, right? This fetish priest took a sword and put it on the ground, and as of now, it's still there. They've not been able to uproot it, right? So if you say we are talking about a whole lot of tourism, we have a whole lot. I live in a mountainous area. There's a whole lot. how our forefathers climbed the mountain, how they settled on top of the mountain. And the mountain is as big as Barbados on top of the mountain. You know, it's a plateau, right? So it's as big as Barbados, right? So if you say we are talking about tourism, we have a whole lot, and we're talking about culture. You know, the culture of Ghana is quite different from Barbados, and I don't know how, because in Ghana, when you go to the governance system, the chiefs, they also have a say, because they believe that before democracy came, before the white man system came, they have their own system of ruling. You get me? So when you go to Ghana right now, the government doesn't control land. It's the chiefs who control the land. The land is for them. They say it's for their forefathers. Their forefathers fought for the land before the white man came and introduced democracy, introduced this system of governance, right? So the government cannot come and tell them that the land is for them. So they control their land. You know, when we go, the culture difference is so huge to the extent that, you know, excuse me to say, I don't know, maybe some might feel offended, but let me say this. Recently, Ghana is introduced a bill in parliament called the LGBT IQ, whatever parliament. They say no, you took a language from us. You are taking some of your culture out. Right now, you want to come and impose this LGBT whatever on us. The chiefs are talking that no, this is not our culture. We believe in polygamy. The white man says no, we don't believe in polygamy. Why is it that you don't believe in my polygamy? But you want to introduce your LGBTQ or whatever on us? You will not accept it. Right now, it has turned into, you know, kind of, I don't know how to say it. Australia, what is threatening Ghana? Everybody is threatening us. But they say no. The chiefs say no. The government who will introduce, or the government who will sign that LGBT, they will overthrow you. They say they don't like it. It's not their culture. It's for the white man. So since they don't accept it, when I go to England, I cannot go and tell them that I'm polygamous, right? So because of that, maybe I have 2 wives and they'll be legally accepted. No, it's not done. In the same way, they say, no, you don't accept ours. This time, we aren't giving no chance. We are not accepting it, right? So, you know, there's a whole lot. And I worked in Blackman and Gallup when the outbreak of COVID came. I happened to meet some of the elderly people. So they, you know, they happened to be interested talking about me or talking with me, you know, concerning Africa. And, you know, when I was, they were saying that, yes, some time back, that was how, you know, people were kind of, you know, Africa, when you see the elderly, you know, that kind of respect for the elderly, you cannot, even if you have a problem with an elderly and, you know, they call you that come and let's solve it. Under no circumstance would they tell the elderly that what you did, you are at fault. Sometimes they will know, but they will tell you that you just have to apologize. They will let you leave. And the elders will meet and tell the elderly that what you did to the child wasn't good. Next time, don't do that. But before you, the child, they will never scold the elderly, right? So, because they believe that the elderly has sense and will be able to kind of straighten you. So if they scold you, they scold the elderly before the child. What do you think in the next day the child will, you know, will say to the elderly? I don't know whether you've gotten what I'm trying to communicate. But, you know, I would like us to take it, if it's one subject at a time, that I will be very much, so that I will be able to gather 1 or 2 stuffs and come and present so many stuffs about it. But if you are taking it in general like that, I think we will kind of skip plenty things and you wouldn't.
No, we agree. I can agree with you that with such a wide-ranging set of topics that we're trying to basically generate interest in what person is saying and get a flavor from everyone as to what is happening and so on. So, you know, you've given us a real flavor, but I can certainly hear your passion, because any subject that we give to you, I know you can expound on. Right. Yeah. But Danielle had her hand up for a while. Danielle, what can you join us with, and what query do you have for us? Thank you for joining us this evening.
Hi, good evening. Nice to meet you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to ask my questions very quickly. I have 2 toddlers in the background. My first question is to Ms. Juliet Barbados. I wanted to ask, what are the relationship between Barbados and Ghana? Is it bilateral or multilateral? And then what is the difference between that? And then my second, I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but my nationality is British, but my parents and grandparents are Barbadian. And my husband is from Ghana. And I lived in Ghana for 3 years. Before coming to Barbados, I've lived here for about 5.5 years now. But one of the things that surprised me was kind of the, I don't know if I want to go as far as hostility, kind of towards kind of like those from African descent, like direct African descent. I've lived in the UK, Ghana, and Barbados, and I felt it more in Barbados than anywhere else that I've lived. Kind of like a kind of disdain associated with being from Africa. And so I assumed that perhaps it was down to education or, you know, how it's taught in schools. And my daughter's experienced nursery school online because of the COVID. And during February, the month of Black History Month, I witnessed a bit of the Black History Month education. And I did kind of find it slightly derogatory at times. And I just wanted to ask perhaps Mr. Kevin Farmer about that, like how education is kind of, or perhaps how it is taught or how it should be taught in a way that kind of gives a sense of being proud of being African, but then on a day-to-day kind of basis, you don't feel the pride of it. You know, it's kind of like more a little disdainful. So I'd just like to ask your comments about that. Thank you.
All right, we've got 2 queries there, one for Juliet and one for Kevin. So Juliet, you will take yours first.
Yes, thank you very much, Annette. So Barbados's relationship with Guyana is both bilateral and multilateral. The decision to establish the High Commission in Guyana will be more of a bilateral relationship. And by bilateral, it talks about the relationship between 2 countries. In multilateral, the definition would be the relationship with several countries. And in the context of the multilateral relationship that's existed for a long time, it takes place within the Commonwealth, it takes place within the ACP, Africa, Caribbean, Pacific grouping, which exists in Brussels. Commonwealth would be headquartered in London, but as you may know, it meets in different parts of the world every few years. And then, of course, at the United Nations. And in terms of the United Nations, for example, I cover the 5th and 6th committee. The 5th committee deals with administrative and budgetary issues, while the 6th committee deals with legal issues. And I have worked closely, jointly with my colleagues from Guyana, for example, on 5th committee issues and on 6th committee issues. But that relationship is not just between the 2 countries, but it's a relationship that, you know, exists in a broader framework with the other 191 countries that make up the United Nations. So, so to finish by saying that the relationship it's at more levels, but with the establishment of the High Commission in Guyana, in Accra, the focus will be mainly on the bilateral relationship, Barbados-Guyana. Thanks.
And Kevin, that's an interesting point that was raised because yes, we do celebrate, we try to celebrate throughout the island African Awareness Month in Black History Month more so than in February. But then we have this month as Emancipation. So why are we just not accepting more or more accepting? And how can we be more accepting based on what Danielle raised?
Let's take 3 or 4 steps back and let's then be brutally honest. It's only we can argue it's only within the last 20 years in Barbados that if a Barbadian got up and said that they were African, that there would be some acknowledgement, yes, that is correct, and it would not be met with derision. We've got a lot to do, but I will say, notwithstanding independence in 1966, there is a lot of decolonization of thinking and history and heritage that we have to unpack. Prior to the 1960s, late 70s, any discussion of anything African was seen as a negative, recognizing that you grew up in a state where for 200 plus years as an enslaved person, anything to do with Africa, whether it was trying to hold on to religion, particular types of culture, it was said to be wrong. And even coming up to independence in 66, as we moved through a stage of being decolonized, it's still an ongoing process. Now, you'll find more Barbadians today willing to not only say that they are African, but actually dress in what they consider to be African-derived fashion. But there's still a long way to go. As I said, the government maybe 20 plus years ago in the educational system began to implement a process by which African history was taught at the primary and secondary level. I learned African history at university, which means I had to have had a particular interest in Africa and its history to go and select a course, as opposed to going into a primary school and this is being taught. The good thing is, after about 15 years of where history was not taught as a core subject in our primary and secondary school, I think this coming September, history as a core subject is being taught, and the revised curriculum does discuss the history of Africa, and the history of Africa not in terms of our arrival in the Caribbean as bonded and enslaved people, but to deal with the history of Africa before slavery. Let me put it that way. And if you were to visit the museum, the gallery that we created those many years ago, sought and seeks to, in a way, engage people and teach them about Africa. Because even in Barbados today, when you say Africa, people have this concept of a singular nation. And not, they don't do it as, say, let's say they do Europe. But that is about engagement and contact and what you're taught on a day-to-day basis, how you engaging with those particular stories. And I think that with continued education to better engagement, that a lot of horrible misconceptions, erroneous misconceptions can begin to erode to the point where they disappear. But I will make the slight argument, it's, believe it or not, better now than it was 30 years ago. It doesn't mean it's good. It means that we've got a long way to go. And I would like to think that as we are making these South-South connections, that the government recognizes that this has to be a holistic engagement. So you can't engage at the level of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Oh, we are having these political connections, and at the Ministry of Health, oh, we're inviting Ghanaian nurses and employing Ghanaian nurses in our health sector. But somewhere in there, someone missed the boat. Well, where's the education? How are you, what's the new word? Onboarding people. You have to onboard an entire nation of almost 300,000 people to teach them about the cyberspace, which they have not been taught about. And that becomes extremely important. What is the orientation for persons who are traveling diplomatically and otherwise for business from Barbados to Ghana and vice versa? And as in all things, you always meet people where they are, and then you seek to educate them beyond that. And I think that's something that we've got to do in a more systematic way. But colonization has a lot to be responsible for, but we at the same time have to recognize what those institutions, whether tangible or intangible, have wrought on us, and begin to decolonize, and to use Marley's term, to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. And I think that becomes critically important. And in some instances, the teachers who are being asked to create curriculum for African Heritage Month and or Black History Month, in some cases are caught off guard because they haven't necessarily been formally trained. And we need to recognize that the education has to be both at a formal and informal level. If you were to ask those teachers, so do you know what is the West African origin of cuckoo? They'll not know. But that is something, for me, that should be basic and should be understood. Why do we use words like wana and ana, which unfortunately are some of the few West African derived words that are still left within our dialect? And the reason why that is so is there was, a systematic attempt to literally wipe that out. And a lot of it perpetrated by the church, especially after post-emancipation, where the effort to Christianize really meant that if there were any traditional African spiritual practices which were more or less condoned before emancipation, they definitely were not condoned after emancipation. So in Barbados, you would get the term obia being used as a catch-all to describe any faith that was not Christian, and any faith that sought to have any roots within African traditional practice. But today, there are quite a number of persons on island that practice Orisha-derived religions, and then a lot of syncretic religions, but it comes down to education. And we've got to be a lot more systematic in that educational process in order to decolonize. So that if your daughter gets up in a class and she says, well, I'm African, and I'm Barbadian, and I am English, that people understand what that means. But at the same time, too, it means that we also need not to be ashamed of saying that I am a descendant of an enslaved person as well. So we do have a lot of unpacking to do, and I think it has started, but we've got a long way to go. But we're getting there, and at the same time, it needs to be a lot more embedded. And I think that to Juliet Fair, we do have a really great opportunity to make those connections. And I know that there's a Ghana Barbados Association, and so that is now part of the informal education process. But yeah, it is very much needed. And Phyllis, you're absolutely correct. You until you open your mouth, you can't tell who's who. I remember as a student being stopped on the tube in the UK, and someone speaking to me in a Canadian dialect, and I was completely lost. I could not reply, and I had to say it was from Barbados. They're like, where? Where's that? And you look like me, but you look like a family member, So you have to meet people where they are and begin to have that wide discussion. But they never heard about Barbados. In fact, they didn't even know that transatlantic slavery happened. So we've got a lot of education to do, but I think that with it, we can create a stronger connection and a stronger bond, and to break down a lot of these artificial barriers that were created to cause division. That's especially important. And like, for example, the next big thing will be Remembrance Day. Now, we talk about the West Indian soldiers who fought in the two world wars, but we never have a discussion about the West African soldiers who fought in two world wars. And that could be a point of engagement. Also, nor do we talk about the West Indian soldiers who fought in the Ashanti Wars in the mid 1840s. Yeah, in West Africa. So as I said, we've got a lot of things to unpack, but I think we need to continue not only to make the start, but to be meaningful in what that start is. But a lot of it has to do with colonization and colonization being a metaphor for extreme westernization, if I can say that bluntly. But we are beginning to unpack it. And I think groups like this and discussions like this can lead us to unpack it even more. I hope that answers the question in a kind of a roundabout way.
Just to follow up, and I think it was Phyllis that made the point when she said, you know, you walk down the street and you see persons that look like us, and it's only until you open your mouth, which is exactly what Kevin said, you know, you hear the dialect or the accent that you realize, hey, wait a minute, is some person from someplace different or someplace else, right? So interestingly though, we've heard Daniel's experience in Barbados, and I think Phyllis, as you have had, how long have you been here now, and what have your experiences with interacting with the Barbadian community, be it at the hospital, be it on the streets of Bridgetown or wherever? What has your experience been like?
For 1 year now.
Okay.
Sometimes you will not even speak to the person. Just looking at the person, you can know that this person looks exactly an aunt or a cousin. You just look at the person and say, yes, Barbadians, they are really coming from Ghana. No two ways about that. Because we look exactly the same. We look the same, to be very honest. I wish one day you go to Ghana, there that you understand what I'm saying now.
I do understand, because
it's very true.
I've had back to that. Yeah,
it's very true. That was my experience when I was there briefly in June. I saw someone in particular who reminded me of a friend of mine here in Barbados. When I came back to Barbados and I saw him, he reminded me of the person I had met in Accra. So it is very, very, very true. My daughter related to me. She's in university in Canada, and she told me, you know, that someone walked up to her and asked her if she's Ghanaian. Yeah. It's true.
I've been asked if I've been from the Igbo. Did I pronounce it Igbo? Did I pronounce it correctly? Try. I've been asked that before. And I was asked that right here in Barbados by a Ghanaian. But how has your interaction been like with the Barbadian community though? You've spoken about, yes, once you keep your mouth shut and you look, you know, you can see that they look like us, but how has your experience just been like compared to what Daniel was saying, you know, in terms of persons, is it disdain or is it welcoming and embracing? It just depends.
Yeah, thank you for your question. It's when you meet a Barbadian, most people get so excited seeing a Ghanaian and they wish to go to Ghana. And then some people too complain, me, I'm a Barbadian, I have no place to go in Ghana and there is nothing like home returns or something like that. But most of them welcomes us and then wish to go to Ghana with us, to be very, very honest. The people are nice when it comes to us, when they meet us. It's just that maybe at work that you get some little frictions but that is normal. We also embrace Barbadians. We chat with them. We get interested in whatever they're trying to tell you, because when you're talking to the person, you don't see the person as somebody far from your land. You see the person so close, and you get interested in whatever the person is telling you.
As Sonia Hines said, that Phyllis is so affirming, and that's very welcoming to hear as well. We have so many things, so much more in common than we have differences at the end of it. I have here, Edward, your hand is up. Hi, Edward.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about, the relationship between us and Bajans, how they treat us, on the island. One day I went to the field to play football. We were about 3 Ghanaians, and we have 3 Bajans. We were trying to play, and one of the Bajans said, no, his grandmother told him that he's a Ghanaian, so no matter what, he will play for us. He's not playing for the he's playing for Ghana, and that the grandfather told him that they are from we have a region called Brona region. That's where the grandfather told him that's where they come from. So no matter what, he's a Ghanaian and that he's playing for. I say, man, take it easy. So I told them that, okay, fine. So he should be me now. I'm also a Barbadian because I've stayed here for 1 year. So I'm going to join the Barbados team, right? So, when you go to town, unless you speak, no one will kind of know the difference. And we have some people, they get closer to you. When you speak and they know that you're from Africa, some of them will kind of get closer and want to know more, right? Because they know that that's where they come from. So some of them will get closer. We've been interacting with patients, and one of the means to divert patient attention from their sickness is kind of have a chat with them, right? So when the world is free, you can just engage some of them. And, they will tell you, say, yeah, that's the motherland. Africa is the motherland. And that gate of no return, I think almost half Barbadians want to go and, enter the gate and return. Those days, it was gate of no return, but now I think it's the gate of return, right? You enter and come back.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been asking myself, so what can I do to kind of get that? Because I think if someone should try and organize a trip, maybe once in 2 years, maybe, I think many people will go down there and, kind of go and experience the land. But nevertheless, I will try, because there's one, the biggest YouTuber in Africa is a Ghanaian, and he's making a trip to the island somewhere September. He'll be going to Kenya, he'll be going to Jamaica, and from Jamaica will come to Barbados. So I will try and kind of have this thing with you, and we will try to contact the guy to kind of, because he's been shooting videos from one African country to the other, and his world, has a whole lot of, very broad when it comes to Africa. I've traveled to about 3 African countries. I've been to Togo and Nigeria. I didn't spend weeks; it was just days. For Togo, I just went there to do some business in Nigeria. I just followed a friend, and I think I went the following day. I came back. But I know that guy he's traveled a whole, about for the African countries. I think he's traveled 2/3, of Africa. He'll be coming to the island somewhere next month. So I'll have that thing that we will try to give the guy a mail to see whether, he will avail himself for us to kind of tap more from the guy, because he's kind of diverse when it comes to things of Africa, not Ghana alone, but things of Africa, right? So concerning the relationship, I don't see, when I'm walking on the street, no one will just look at me and kind of create something like racism. No, there is nothing like that. Until you speak, nobody knows. When we are all in the public van, we are all Barbadians. Nobody knows who is a Ghanaian, right?
Yes.
You get to the point, you pay $3 50 cents, you go your way. We are all Barbadians. Until we speak, you wouldn't know, right? So I think, no, don't worry. I think the next month we can organize a guy. If even the guy is on the island, I think we can have that Zoom this thing so that they will be able to, kind of tell us more. And I think I also suggest that we have people from certain areas, they have some culture And initially they were telling us that, as Mr. Kevin said, some people think Africa is kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but some kind of weird continent. I don't know the way people think. Sometimes when you come to the hospital, someone will be asking you, so in your country, do you use a car? I say, man, I drive a bigger car than yours. So unless you go there, you wouldn't know. And when you go to Africa, you will see a whole lot of things. You will see real poverty. I wouldn't lie you. You will see some people who are very rich, and you see the middlemen, right? So,
but remember, Edward, we spoke about education, and that is what it comes down to: education. I think the whole idea of a direct link where persons, because Barbadians love to travel, and the whole idea of a direct link where you can just go from Barbados to Africa, someplace in Africa, be it Ghana, Kenya, wherever. I think that is coming, and I think you will see more of an open-mindedness, because I think I was reading that there are prospects for Caribbean African trade and economic cooperation, sharing of expertise, particularly in the areas of education. Phyllis mentioned agriculture, but people are so excited about the educational aspect of it and opening their minds. So definitely, we're on track.
I think my people will love you, because it's rather unfortunate in Ghana. I got to know Barbados. It was through Rihanna. I was reading about Rihanna. That's why I got to know about Barbados. But when you go Africa, we know more of Jamaica, because they are good in athletics and the reggae, music and the dancehall. Because that's why, when it comes to that side, Barbados is a bit silent when it comes to those things. So I think the way Dubai is creating awareness about their tourism and stuff, I think Barbados can also start something so that Africa will know more about.
And I think the mere fact that we have, we will have Juliet there. We're calling on you, Juliet, to perhaps organize our very first trip. For example, the year of return is gone, but the year.
Right now we have the year beyond the return.
The year beyond return, exactly. The year beyond the return was last year, though.
But it's still in progress.
It's continuous. It's continuous. The year beyond return is continuous. All I know is it's still beyond return. You're quite right, because 400 centuries, 400 years ago.
To join that trip to Africa, I'll be very happy joining you, so that
I'll be the first one with my hands up, ready to go.
All
right, folks. I'm ready. We have had such an interesting discussion this evening. It's really been rich. I hope persons enjoyed it. There have been some comments in the chat. Lucine said that one of the nurses came to her home in December with a friend, and she resembled one of her friends, and she talked to her thinking that she was her friend. And she's laughing, and she finally said, no, I'm not her, and she's a nurse from Ghana. And they had a good laugh about it. But again, it comes back to exactly what Kevin was saying, exactly what Phyllis is saying. Lucy, you were doing all the talking, but until the person perhaps opened their mouth, you realize, hey, wait a minute, it wasn't, but at least you had a good laugh, you had a good discussion, you had a good conversation. And obviously, she felt welcomed, and you welcomed her. So I think that's excellent. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to give each of you 2 minutes to do some closing remarks. I will start with Phyllis, since you were last time. I will start with you first. Just some closing remarks. You have 1 to 2 minutes. What would you like to say to us at this point?
Thank you. You mentioned education. We have more than 15 public universities in Ghana, and then private universities, plus the technical universities. With the technical sectors, it's now changed to universities. So with education in Ghana, we are progressing. Now with the secondary school, it used to be the student used to pay school fees, but with the current government, it's free education for secondary education. But with the universities, students are paying. But gradually we are getting there. So with education, and then with the Also, we have to also sell both Barbados and then Ghana. We have to sell. We have to sell the benefits. We have to sell the tourists and then the cultural benefits, all that. And then we will know, we will all benefit at the end of the day. So it's now, as it was said, we now beyond the returns. So we're now looking forward to get more and more closer. And with that, I think with the straight flight can help.
I agree.
Yes, straight flight, people coming in and going will help. It will bring us together. Thank you very much for this opportunity tonight.
You're most welcome, and we were so pleased to have you with us. Kevin, your final comments?
My final comments are to thank you for inviting me tonight. I look forward to the deepening of this conversation. I think it's extremely important because the ties with any country and people begins with culture, and because that leads to greater teaching and understanding and greater cooperation. So I look forward to that coming out of these discussions. And like you, Annette, Juliet, when y'all organize that first flight, I want to be there. I need to have that trip home.
Yes.
I really do. I really do. So thank you all so much. And keep being safe.
Yes, thank you, you too. And you're quite right. It right now it's beyond a want, it's a need to be there. Definitely. I'm going to switch things up a little bit because Julia, I want to come back to you last with respect to the fact that you are our new representative there. So Edward, I'm going to invite you to say your 1 to 2 minute closing remarks at this point.
All right, thank you. But you know, I'm a big talkative, so if you give me 1 to 2 minutes.
I realize that. I realize that. So give me a one.
Okay, I've put something on the chat, you know, with the Maya. When you check on YouTube, you know, he's been doing the, how do you call it, videos about Africa. You know, you know more about it. Then you can recommend the YouTube channel to your friend to go there just to see, you know, how Africa, you know, this Western media, you know, they've tried to paint Africa the way they want it, the way they want you to see Africa. That's the way they are pointing it to you, right? But if you want the raw thing, I think you can follow the guy on YouTube to check 1 or 2 videos. I'm in contact with a guy. He'll be on the island next week, so I'm trying to see whether I can kind of get in contact, and if anything, then we will talk. And Mr. Wicks, Miss Wicks, I'll get back to you so that, you know, we will try and do something about it. With the traveling issue, I think if you really want to go home, right, I don't think anything has to be an obstacle, right? Whether UK to Ghana, whether US to, at least if you even get 5 people, we can go there, shoot videos, and come and show it to them to know. And I think with that, it will encourage more to kind of go. When it comes to education, with the education sector, I think I know about 5 Ghanaians who were studying here even before we came. You know, the cost of reading medicine here is quite on the less side compared to Ghana. Moreover, admission entry into medical school here is kind of less compared to Ghana. Because Ghana, we are many, the medical schools are not that plenty. So getting admission, you know, is very tough. So kind of, because Ghana, one secondary school alone, one high school alone can have about 1,005 people, right? So look at the number of people who graduate and the number of people who score 8As, 7As. So, you know, getting into admission school is kind of tough. So most of them, those who are well, you know, endowed, those who have money, their parents have, you know, some of them do travel here, and some do contact us. Some do contact us. I heard of first of that of Guyana before, you know, later I heard of you and others on the island. And I think our current president now, I think, has Caribbean at heart, because last 2 years before COVID, when we're celebrating our 57th, during one of our Independence Day celebration, I think the guest of honor was the Trinidadian president, right? So I think our president kind of, you know, he has the heart for, you know, those things, and I think he has African in mind. And you can, if you are dealing with African, then you cannot take Caribbeans out, because we see, you know, Caribbeans as, you know, just that was as a result of this slavery. That's why, you know, some of them were kind of moved, right? And now we have an island near Indonesia area there. I think they have equally black Africans there. I think they are being suppressed by the Indonesians and they are treating them bad. So they have even formed a community with Lumumba, some of the well-known African guys to kind of fight independence for those are African brothers who are forgotten of it's an island. I've forgotten about it. So our people back home, they really care about, Caribbean and the other African countries. Just that the layman doesn't know more about Caribbean. Just like they know Jamaica, but they know more about Trinidad and yeah. So
and I totally agree with you.
Going, I'm looking up to Miss Weeks with the organization of the trip home. I'm fully there. Any help you want, whatever. If you really want me to go and make underground work and come, I'm ready for you. I'll be going in January. I'll go and visit my mom and kind of. So anything that you do, and since right now we are having a rep, right now I'm be there, and that's why I'm saying right now we forget about my African. Right now
I'm sorry that my camera really isn't working. I'm really sorry my camera isn't working because you'll see the smile on my face. But I'm ready.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give
within this year to next year, maybe middle of next year, we can organize our first trip. If we even have about 5 people, I'll go there in January so I can make all the necessary contacts because there are more things you have to go and see. The way our ancestors were living before the white men came, our traditional system of the way, our people, because my people who live on the mountain, they say their ancestral spirit led them to that place. And if nobody tells you that those days, in the olden days, if nobody tells you that there is a land on top of that mountain, you wouldn't believe. You wouldn't believe them. So they have a way and why they pour libation. Certain things I think we have to know about these things. So that's
all
it.
right.
And thank you for the
okay, we're gonna bring your session to a close so I can get Julia in. But I will say one last thing before you go. I am very familiar with Maya. I've watched several of his YouTubes. As a matter of fact, the last one I watched was on Liberia, so I am very familiar with that.
All right.
Julia, you are our next representative. You are first representative, and we are very anxious to hear from you as the final word. Thank you so much, and thank you very much, Edward.
Thank you very much, Annette. I will echo everything that's been said by Phyllis, Kevin, and Edward. At the political government level, there's the recognition that we need to strengthen this relationship that is ancestral and cultural. At the people-to-people level, there's this hunger and strong desire to reconnect. I think that is an easy relationship to develop. It's like long lost family that you have not seen in a long time, a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. There's this ease and familiarity that exists, which just needs channels to give it greater expression. And the decision by the government of Barbados to establish a resident presence on the continent in West and East Africa will redound to that. I know that, for Ghana, that there are plans in train to create those airlinks, direct airlines, as well as in the interim to have this, dedicated arrangements to facilitate travel between Accra and Barbados, even if we're going through in initial stages through a third state. So I'm excited about taking up this posting. I am excited about discovering the similarities between Barbados and Ghana, Barbados and other countries in West Africa. I'm excited to discover the differences. and how we can learn from each other, how we can work from each other with each other, how we can help each other, how we can cooperate with each other. And then one last thing I would say is, and I don't know if my Edward and Phyllis, you would agree with me, but I saw these minivans in Accra that reminds me of the ZRs that we have in Barbados. They're not painted the same color, but they're these vans, and you have the conductors, and they have the doors open, and the conductors are standing. It's very, very similar.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
So
So
I
they
look
really,
forward to
so they
that.
really are at home.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
I've been taking Van 11, and it's like I'm home. Yes.
including the speed.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, thank you so very much, panelists. At this point, I would just invite one of our members of the committee, Lana Fingal, to give a summary and the vote of thanks. Lana?
Hi, good night, everyone. I hope that you can hear me. I too am having some IT challenges tonight, so hence why you're not able to see me either. So I hope that at least you're able to hear me quite clearly. So I want to thank all of you, Edward, for your enthusiasm, Juliet, Kevin, and Phyllis for your contributions tonight. I thought that the discussion was a very interesting one. It was interesting to hear how the Ghanaian nurses, your experience in settling here in Barbados, and to be assured that there are some similarities between Barbados and Ghana. And I think we're all aligned in our hope for the further development of relationships between Barbados and Africa. And from what I heard tonight, there are many opportunities in agriculture, our cultural connections, and tourism. As Kevin mentioned, over the years, Barbadians have become very involved in the wearing of African style clothing and jewelry, and are quite anxious, myself included, for the direct flight so that we can experience the motherland. I mean, we've heard about it, we've seen it in so many movies and documentaries and I think many of us are just anxiously awaiting for the establishment of that flight so that it can become a reality for us. Juliet, congratulations to you, and thank you for sharing some of what the Barbados government hopes to achieve through the strengthening of ties between the two countries. I've heard of a couple business persons from Barbados who are actually quite anxious to visit and have actually started to explore the possibility of establishing business connections. They too are actually in the process of possibly planning trips down there to see what linkages they can establish as well. And I also heard there's some talk of establishing maybe banking connections and so as well. So I think we're well on our way to trying to establish some connections between Barbados and Africa. And I think that is something that can just grow from strength to strength. And so on behalf of the 190th Anniversary Committee, I want to thank all of you for participating tonight. And I welcome you to join any of our other discussions, and I welcome you back in some other stage where we can explore this conversation a little deeper. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We will now invite Michael Brown to give the closing prayer, please. Michael, you're still with us?
Can you bow our heads, please? Dear Lord and Father of mankind, forgive our foolish ways. Reclothe us in our rightful minds, in pure lives that service find in deeper reverence praise. As we reach east to foster relations with Africa, let us not be so divided on the issue of the Republic that we lose all sense of the foundations of our character. Let us see one another as children equal in the sight of God. O God, from whom all holy desires, all good counsel, and all just works do proceed, give unto us, thy servants, that peace which the world cannot give, that our hearts may be set to obey thy commandments, and also that by thee we being defended from the fear of our enemies, may pass our time in rest and quietness, to the merits of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen. Light nor darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord, and by thy great mercy, defend us from all perils and dangers of this night, for the love of thy only Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
The grace of our Lord and Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much. Thank you everyone for joining us again, as we look forward to your presence when next we have conversations in the chapel. Stay safe,
Thank you very
everyone,
much.
and have a good night.
Good night, everyone. I'm Michael. Good to see you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.